Yeah, I've been developing decentralized technology now for almost 6 years, and that's what I've really focused on. And started off building a diamond traceability app for De Beers, and only a subset of things really end up on chain historically when working with Ethereum or other types of decentralized protocols. So an example is like, I want to store all this data, but I want it to be decentralized. Well, it's so expensive to store all that data. So you end up storing just a small hash on chain. And eventually you only start putting that hash on there every so often because the cost of actually writing that hash to chain.
Yeah.
And so when Definity started building the internet computer, there's always been this vision of we can put the whole thing on chain. So I was sitting there like, well, I want to build something for this. I want to see what is the feasibility of this. And so as soon as we got something up, or I got something up on the chain, it was an example of like, wow, this could actually work. And
Yeah.
at the time it was the pandemic, right? And
Yeah.
I was really lacking community. I was really lacking like communication, like
Hmm.
diving into problems with people. And so Discover was really for me a community that was being built and some people that I could talk to. And it felt like I had that capability with Discover. So it's just like them wanting to use the platform and wanting to communicate with me and actually build out this platform just continued to drive features. And it wasn't like, hey, we're going to go change the world. Let's build a decentralized social network. It was like,
Yeah.
and does this actually work? Is this
Yeah.
actually possible? And through that, through learning up through the users, through talking to them, it was just fuel to the fire for me. It was just,
Yeah.
wow, there's people out there who are talking. And I'll always remember the first comment that the person, I have no idea who they are, where they are at this point in time, but I remember that first hello world and me hello world backing to them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, it works, thumbs up. And I'm like, yeah, this works. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So, it's just, and then everything forward has been like, okay, what is the problem that we're solving? What is the problem that the user is facing? And how do we resolve that?
Yeah.
And that's just how Discover got built. It's just
Yeah.
through the process of working with the user and building something functional for them.
Yeah. What has been, since you've been building in tech in Web3 decentralized technology for over the past 6 years, how has the evolution looked and where are we in terms of its kind of overall adaptability to whether it's dApps, DeFi, DSoc is what they're calling it, and all these other kind of subsidiary technologies that come about with decentralized technology? How's the evolution been from your perspective on building it, and where do you think its capability is in terms of, the adaptability kind of widespread?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really started off with like Bitcoin, right? And we could securely and safely and cryptographically transfer value between two addresses. And people started asking more questions, like maybe there's more complex data associated with this data. There's some sort of data structure. And, thus things like Ethereum were created and people could start running minimal applications on top of these protocols. And then the question, of course, was people who started building on Ethereum sort of like started constructing larger applications. And it came to the point where it's like, well, maybe this application is too large for an Ethereum for the EVM, but maybe not for something else.
Yeah.
So you started seeing more corporate protocols born to try to facilitate this. And you had like EOS was created, which wasn't very corporate, but the idea is you could like build larger scale applications on chain. And, through the ICP and Dominic Williams, they were able to see this very early on and actually come up with a way that you could actually run an entire application on
Yeah.
chain, like all your business logic on chain, which is a huge paradigm shift from where everything started, but it's like
Yeah.
natural progression. So
Yeah.
taking this progression, we're just going to continue to see larger and quicker applications built on chain where you can have like full game servers. You're going to have like all your streaming services are coming from chain, like, all these types of analytic tools and data processing and search engines. So it's like, what type of chain would be needed? What type of protocol would be needed to actually facilitate these types of applications? And this is why I'm on the internet computer. I feel like it is on the bleeding edge and it has a lot further way to go before it reaches that ceiling of, okay, this is the largest application that can be built.
Yeah.
And Discover's far from that, right? Which is really interesting. So that means from a Discover perspective, like we have so much further to go from what type of features and products can we actually keep on chain?
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I love the truth that kind of comes with the, decentralized products. I was talking to another founder and he had built a way to for research institutions and corporate institutions, but as well as individuals, get loans and build credit scores on chain. This idea of understanding where your data is coming from and the history of the usability of that product influencing the way you are productively using that or gaining more access is incredible to see and how it's continued to grow. So amazing to see how the technology is becoming more and more, or I guess the barriers are becoming lesser and you have more accessibility overall. What problems is Discover solving? You talked about, you said hello world and from that conception, that idea and that the fact that it works, now you're looking to solve more problems for your user. What kind of problems are you looking to solve?
Yeah, at this point in time, we're a completely decentralized social platform running on the internet computer, as we were saying. We have like NFT verified profile photos. We have the ability to tip and gift NFTs. We have the ability to gate and create communities and then gate those communities by NFT ownership, even gate them by traits. So full role-based access control. We're starting to explore governance is our next big one, is like, how do you actually govern these communities, right? What type of rules and tools do you need in place? And there's a lot of knowledge out there, especially within how DAOs are run right now. So it's like, how do we take those type of mechanisms and create them in a way that's palatable to a Discover user and palatable to somebody who's actually building a decentralized community?
Yeah.
And so like at tokenomics, how do we actually progress through these types of rules so we can actually, further finance the platform? But I think really governance is highly focused right now.
Yeah. Why does, I guess, for me, I see the idea and maybe I would love to hear it from your perspective. Why does something like social and social interaction, social networking need to be on Web3 and go Web3?
Yeah, it's really about your digital ownership, right? Like, do you own the digital content that you upload to Facebook and Instagram? No, I mean, I think you even sign it away or one of their terms of services when you actually upload it. But like, it's not like terrible. I mean, it's gotten this far and it's proven out how people want to communicate. And I think just the progression is that we want to shift the ownership from the companies to yourself. Like you should own your own digital footprint. And that's one thing that Discover really wants to get right is like, how do we make sure you own your digital footprint on the platform and that you have control over it? And if
Yeah.
there's some sort of monetization in place because of the activities that have happened on the platform, what percent of that are you getting? What slice of that pie? And you have a right to things because you're creating this platform along
Yeah.
with all the other users.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I love that perspective. And it kind of leads into my next question. How is the community, or how are products, I guess, and especially with Discover, being influenced by the community that they're cultivating?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the community drives Discover. It's like there's no doubt in my mind, it's really about monitoring things, being like, okay, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish?
Mhm.
Reaching out to them. And the gating is one of those. It's like, hey, I have my community, but like, can you restrict it so people with this NFT can gate it? And it's like, yeah, that's a one-off. Let's try it. And as soon as we put it up and put it in place, it's like, whoa, this is amazing. Let's scale this. And I think we're at like 48 right now. And we have self-gating tools coming out that'll hopefully exponentially increase that so the users can do it like just through a couple clicks of buttons. But and like tipping, someone on the platform is like, hey, I have this new token I'm launching, but how do I give it out to users? It's like on my own free will. Like I just want to have it and just like start dishing it out. So we did a little bit of research and we're like, oh man, if we do this, connect these three dots, the user can click a button and just give away some of these tokens. And now tipping has turned into many, many tokens. I think it's by the end of the year, it's probably going to be a couple dozen, who knows?
Yeah.
And this perpetually happens though. Like I have a problem, but I need a fix. We're listening to the problem. What are you trying to do with it? Okay, how do you like this solution? How do you like that solution? And presenting that optionality to the users, as we found, takes us down paths that we couldn't envision, right? So
Mhm.
like, it's not always up to us to solve the problem. The users are solving problems with us.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the progression of the way you're interacting with users and the ability you offer them to create certain, and it seems like it's also beneficial for Discover to create these different communities. A question that popped up as I was looking into Discover and knowing kind of the social climate with and these other platforms is The question around, a malicious user or what the consensus feels as a malicious user, how is Web3 and decentralized technology going to kind of combat individuals or monitor or I guess inactivate end users that are from the consensus, maybe not pushing out content that is productive or maybe even harmful? I'm sure you're in the news with different, social figures,
Oh yeah.
you're speaking out and being, kind of banned from certain areas. And there's a lot of divide. My philosophy, I don't know if it's popular, but if the consensus is not with it, then, we all don't want to hear it. But how does Web3, because of its decentralized nature, combat or address individuals of that nature? Have you thought about that? And if you have, what are your thoughts about the technology and how it interacts?
Yeah, high level for Discover, there's no like root community on Discover.
Yeah.
It's all sub communities. So by just joining a sub community, you're abiding by the rules of that sub community or of that community itself. And anyone can create a community. So if bad actor is coming into communities, those communities can remove that user because that's their community. They can do what they want with it. Right.
Yeah.
But if the bad actor creates a community that is intended to harm or break some sort of rules. So we have global rules on the platform and they're very standard. There's like no doxing, no illegal content, things like that. And then we can come to a quick vote to remove that community and potentially permanently ban that user.
Yeah.
But the idea there is like, that should be a very extreme situation. On a micro scale though, each community can decide who can post and not post in their own community because it's, theirs.
Yeah, yeah. I love
Yep.
that sense of ownership, especially as, communities kind of self-regulate naturally, and kind of human nature wise. We're all beings that like to group in certain, whether it's based on a similar idea or similar goal or what have you. And that self-policing or self-regulation, I think, is something that has been taken away from more centralized platforms. And so it's awesome to see Discover kind of allowing people the capability to regulate their own communities and foster, or create their message that they feel is, in essence, either from what they conceived it as or that it's evolving to. Tell me a little bit about the traction. You talked about the different technologies, these sub communities that you're building, these gated communities that are really, creating, and compounding on themselves. Tell us a little bit about the traction, the users, how many users are on the platform, what do you intend to grow to, what do you expect? Yeah, we'd love to hear about some of the progress that Discover is seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at 130,000 users at this point in time. We grew maybe 30% in August alone. September, the numbers are not in yet, but it's going to be another big growth period for us. And, the biggest use cases are people wanting to build communities and drive decisions in those communities, like through polling or NFT gating and tipping and things like that. It's becoming a launch pad too. And it's always kind of been where people are like, hey, I have a new NFT project I'm about to launch. First thing I want to do is build up a community around it and start whitelisting those users for airdrops because it's a form of identity. By joining this community, by participating in this community in a positive manner, people are able to select them and whitelist them. And so the other part of that too is like, because you don't like Discover when you sign up, you already have an address and this address acts like a wallet and can already receive fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens. So users, once they whitelist them, can drop them directly to the user on Discover by just grabbing their wallet address on Discover and sending it right to it. So it's like we've kind of solved that typical problem that you might face for the onboarding for Web3.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're seeing a lot of growth is people who are like learning about the Web3 process and getting evangelized through actually interacting with the platform and receiving fungibles or non-fungibles, being able to actually go to sell them, to trade them, to keep them, to do all sorts of things with them.
Yeah.